Welcome back to Turning Point Tonight, where we are charting the course of America's cultural comeback. Time for the best part of the day, our daily update from White House Turning Point correspondent. Let me rephrase that. Turning Point White House correspondent, Monica Page. Monica joins us from the White House. Monica, how you doing?
Doing great, Joe Bob. Another day here at the White House. It's a little
Yeah,
cloudy, not
you
too
know,
sunny, but we're hanging in there.
yeah, hope for some sun
Mm,
soon. So
yeah.
NATO has been a big topic of discussion. Pretty much anybody who's been following global geopolitics knows that the United States pretty much funds all of anything NATO does, so we want it to be efficient and effective. Can you talk us through what's going on coming out of the White House regarding NATO?
Yeah, so to your point, Joe Bob, I mean, that's something that President Trump has been talking about heavily, how we are constantly contributing to NATO, but some other countries haven't really been picking up some of this slack. So, God forbid, if something were to happen to the United States, would some of the other countries come to our rescue if something were to happen? Because we know that we would for other countries. Would others do the same? So, President Trump speaking with the NATO General Secretary today in the Oval Office, talking about in respects to Russia, Ukraine, but also where NATO goes from here moving forward, and really what the vision would look like moving forward. I know President Trump had also recently mentioned that NATO needs an overhaul. They need to complete to really 180 on how NATO works. So it'll be interesting to see how things go moving forward and how those conversations happen after this afternoon.
Yeah, it's always fascinating how those Euro countries are big time. Yeah, everyone needs to do their part, except for when it comes to things like NATO or the UN, in which case the US, you go ahead and pay for all of that. Speaking of President Trump, obviously, you're at the White House. He's going to the DOJ tomorrow. Tell us about that.
Yeah, President Trump taking his first trip to the DOJ tomorrow, the Department of Justice, where Attorney General Pam Bondi is leading the charge over there. She also posted on X saying that she's looking forward to Trump's speech and his visit at the DOJ tomorrow. President Trump really looking to hit home at the weaponization of government. I mean, as we know, during the entirety of President Trump's campaign, he has been targeted by the federal government under Joe Biden's leadership. So he's looking to really hit home on that and maybe even pitch an idea that he has, some kind of reform for the Department of Justice, and outline really what he thinks how the DOJ should be operating moving forward. So very interesting to see what he'll have to say tomorrow, how long he'll stay. Of course, we do know that he has some executive orders that he might be looking into tomorrow as well. There are some rumors that it could be the Aliens Act of 1798 he could be looking at as well. But he's heading to Mar-a-Lago tomorrow afternoon, the Winter White House is what many people call it. So he's got a busy day tomorrow too. It's always a busy week here at this White House.
You've been covering the White House for a while. Talking about the trips to Mar-a-Lago, a bunch of people are very upset that their taxpayer dollars are being spent for President Trump to fly around. Is this a pretty normal thing though? Do presidents leave the White House often?
Yeah, I mean, under Joe Biden, we saw him leaving to go to Delaware, Rehoboth Beach, especially in the summertime. He spent about a little bit more than 40% of his presidency, by the way, on vacation.
Hmm.
A lot of that being spent during the summertime. But President Trump, he actually works on his supposed days off on the weekends. So we can definitely expect him to maybe release some statements over the weekend. This is normal, though. I mean, we've seen it with Joe Biden, but with President Trump, although he does travel, he has a different agenda than just laying on a beach.
Yeah, that's true. Monica Page, Turning Point's White House correspondent. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, let's get back to our panel because you got to talk about the whole FAA DEI thing. Apparently, it was going on in the Obama years. In 2014, there was a call that was leaked from one of the hiring people over at the FAA that is responsible for hiring flight tower operators. And well, it didn't really sound all that great. I'm going to play this clip and have our panel react to what apparently has been going on for way too long. Check this out.
Provide you with an email that will be extremely crucial in the opening stages of this hiring process. There are some valuable pieces of information that I have taken a screenshot of, and I'm going to send that to you via email. Trust and believe it will be something that you will appreciate to the utmost. Keep in mind, we are trying to maximize your opportunities, and I'm doing the very best that I can with the time that I'm given. Today when I get off at 11 o'clock, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to finish out that email. I'm going to send it to each of you, and as you progress through the stages, refer to those images so that you will know which icons you should select.
So that is Shelton Snow, who was sending out emails of how to pass through the first phases of employment with the FAA. Shelton Snow was a powerful figure, the Daily Mail reports, in the, get this, National Black Coalition of Federal Aviation Employees. Not even sure why that was a thing, but he was the head of that organization and the president of the Washington suburban chapter of that area, that association. Let's see, Alex. I mean, are we surprised? But well, let me try to surprise you even more. Are we surprised that this guy still works for the FAA even after this came out? The Inspector General knew about this in 2015. They said, "Hey, you can stay employed," and to this day, he is still employed by the FAA.
You know, honestly, I'm not surprised because you know how he would spin it, that he's trying to help people, right? You know, he's trying to help people. But when it comes to our safety, I just want a dang FAA agent that knows what they're doing. I mean, if we need a meritocracy, it comes to our safety in air travel, and even, you know, if they're an 18-wheeler driver. I don't want people cheating on their driving tests. I mean, they're operating heavy machinery. They are in charge of all of these planes in New York City or wherever they are. I mean, this is a complicated thing. I think that you have to have an IQ over 100. So listen, I'm not surprised he's cheating. In his mind, he probably thought what he was doing was good. But because of that, that's why we have planes that crash into Black Hawk helicopters. I mean, it's all basically DEI. And I listen, I want to help marginalized people, but risking the safety of other people to help out marginalized people, it doesn't make sense. That's not what we do in a proper society.
Yeah, Jonathan, he went on in the phone call to say, or the voicemail to say, he's 99.9% sure that this is exactly every answer to each question, and said using buzzwords will flag your resume, thereby giving you an advantage over thousands of others. We asked Alex if he's surprised that he still works for the FAA. This happened again in 2014, so we're a long ways away from it. Do you think people change, I guess is my question, or you know, is this guy still probably going to try and pull some similar stuff in the modern day?
Well, I think if this guy isn't an idiot, he will, you know, lay low for now. But, you know, we've talked about this, Joe Bob. You know, this is the epitome of DEI from the depths of hell, man. I mean, if you look further at the details of this story, not only was this guy allegedly trying to help people cheat on these tests, you know, he essentially was only helping minorities. He didn't give these answers to white people. Look, you as Asian Americans, you know, we've talked about growing up. We wanted to see more representation. We wanted to see more Asian American faces, but not at the expense of another ethnic group when they're being marginalized, discriminated against. And this is exactly what's happening here. And that's why DEI doesn't work. It's not merit-based. And on top of that, what this does is it actually sets back these minorities several decades, I feel like, who were just wanted to take this test. And now everyone's going to think, well, that person's a DEI hire if they actually make it through. So I don't think it's fair for anyone involved.
Yeah, Jonathan, I just want to correct the record. You said that I actually identify as an African-American, but for tax purposes. Actually, I think on this panel, Alex is actually the minority. So Alex, we'll have to pander to you.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
How does it feel to be white, Alex?
It feels good, honestly. But, you know, but Jonathan, you know, this is one thing. You know, I don't want to get in hot water for this, but I do believe that there's a reason that Asians, when they come to America, they're most successful, you know, because it's, you know, they're trying to work hard. They're not taking free handouts. So it is crazy how people say that we have a racist country when Asian Americans are statistically incredibly successful when they come to this country, but other people aren't. So, you know, I think it comes to the way we were raised, our culture, or, you know, ethical and moral values of why we're successful, not the color of our skin.
Wow, Alex, that sounds like it sounds very bigoted, almost like something that Martin Luther King Jr. would say, judged by the content of your character, not the color of your skin. You know, Jonathan, I want to go back to you in Seattle. There's this big story that I found on your X feed talking about ICE agents in Seattle being doxxed by a bunch of the loony people that don't want illegal criminals to be rounded up and deported out of the country. Can you tell us more about that? What's going on there?
Yeah, well, this has been going on for several weeks now across the nation, where ICE agents, being doxxed, essentially, far-left activists, immigrant rights groups, you know, notifying school districts neighbor groups to take photos if they see any type of raids, and take these photos, and now they're putting it up on websites. So others can essentially be notified and alerted if they see these agents in their hood as well. And that's extremely dangerous for these ICE agents who are dealing with criminal illegals to begin with. And now that they're being outed, personal information, faces, it's really becoming problematic here, especially in Seattle.
Yeah, the first time I met Jonathan Cho, he was running through the quad away from Antifa at the University of Seattle. Alex, just overall, both of you have amazing bravery when it comes to being in these super tense situations. How important is it that, in spite of, this is not condoning doxing at all. I'm just saying, in spite of the fact that the left does play with some dirty rules, how important is it to continue to stand up and not let it impede on what it is that you're doing?
Well, I mean, Trump said it best, we have to fight. And that doesn't mean a physical fight, but it kind of means going out and getting in the mix and seeing what's really happening. Because, some of Jonathan's work, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but a lot of people are scared to go to these protests. And people like Jonathan and I are just crazy enough to go out and get in the middle of it. So it's not this glamorous thing. It's really not going to a protest and getting, Antifa hitting you with umbrellas. Nothing's really glamorous about it. But I think it needs to happen so people realize what's actually going on. And just the weirdness. I'm sure Jonathan goes to these protests, just some of the people, and that's why I almost get the content, not even just to see the protest, but some of these people are so bizarre and on so many hormones, and they're so many times vaccinated. Like, it's just the freaks of the freaks. And Jonathan and I, we're pretty freaky too for going and, filming all these people out in public.
Yeah, kudos.
Yeah, we've got to be crazy to do what we do, Alex. But, I just simply want to quickly add, Joe Bob, the reason why we're out there trying to cover these protests as well is because you don't have mainstream media out there. This is the type of content that isn't brand safe. You can't sell diaper ads next to this. But at the same time, we've got to expose and show what these activists are doing. In many cases, the violent rhetoric they're putting out there, the call to action, the mobilization, and destruction, the graffiti, the trashing of vehicles and buildings. If we're not there to spotlight that, no one else will be.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the courage it takes. I go into some of those riots as well, but fortunately for me, the protesters / rioters are so racist, they look at me and say, brown guy with earrings, he's probably on our side. So I'm usually safe. Jonathan Cho, Alex Stein, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. We'll have you back as soon as we can.
Have a good one,
Thanks,
Joe Bob.
Bob.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Coming up next, a cultural apothecary clip that you don't want to miss from Alex Clark. Don't go, we'll be right back.